what's happening in a rites of passage process journey, because you mentioned that you went through a process, such a process, and I'm just curious if you can share a little bit about what's happening there, about the process.
And in my research, it all seems to be boiled down to 3 phases: a beginning, a middle, and an end, if you like, to keep it simple. A preparation, a process of leaving the old you behind, and transformation into the new. There's a period of kind of transformation and formation, and then there's the coming back, what's called sometimes reincorporation. So you don't live forever outside your society and outside of yourself. You integrate. But those are the 3 phases, 3 processes. So it's not rocket science. It's simple enough. In my experience, I did Richard Rohr's. It's a 5-day process, but I think Rohr himself has written that really a society would be giving young men months and months, maybe a year, maybe 2 years to do this process in its true meaning. But in the modern world, we have 5 days for men to get annual leave. So this is what they've designed. So I did a 5-day rites of passage process in Scotland a few years ago, designed by Rohr and delivered them by teams of men who are all following that kind of blueprint. There are others out there, but this one, I just like the way Rohr wrote about it, and the guys I met, I felt it was authentic. It's a process that's built on a couple of elements very strongly. So ritual is huge and must be. So with men, I think you can talk forever and a day at a conceptual level, at an intellectual level. And that's how our education systems are designed nowadays. 3rd level, 2nd level, 1st level. It's reaching us here. But rites of passage processes are not about learning in the head. They're about learning down deep in the gut. It's really soul work. So I can talk to you all day long about forgiveness, explain why it's a good thing and it's good for you. And I can talk to you about joy, anger, sadness. We can explore it on paper, but if I ritualize it in some way and have you go through a ritual that is some way bringing up mystery, those key words of mystery or enchantment or unknowing, and it's very visceral, physical. So I can talk to you about how hard it is to, I don't know, carry a log from your house to my house, and it'll probably take us a day, but I'll say, let's do it. Okay, let's carry it. You go front, I'll go back. Let's set off. We suddenly get very physical, and we begin to sweat. We begin to breathe harder. Heart rates go up. So all that area of ritual is absolutely crucial, in my view. Storytelling is a big part of rites of passage. Again, those points I made, like life is difficult, life is not about you. We can teach them in a classroom to young boys. I don't think it'll get in that much. But if we use storytelling techniques, so pivotal book many years ago was Robert Bly's Ireton John, where he took the story of Ireton John. And at our rites of passage, one of the older men, one of the elders, told the story of Ireton John, but very creatively, around the campfire for a few hours. And I was watching him and thinking, what a great storyteller. So there's a whole art to storytelling. And I think young men then need to know first how to tell their own story, to listen to the older men's stories. And in the storytelling, and however you weave that magic through it, that's a real skill and art, and a crucial art of rites of passage. So older men have to learn again the art of storytelling. In order to provide the young men with the example, who will then pass it on. So storytelling, I think, is it's a key part. The whole thing about just brotherhood And this is basic. It's sitting around a campfire. We sat around a lot of time around the campfire, chit-chatting. There was no need for alcohol or drugs. There's no need. We're in a whole new zone. We give up our cell phones, our watches. We have no idea. We're out of the world for 5 days, 5 nights, and in a lovely part of Scotland, and later in the wilderness area. So you're out of all the connections and things grabbing at you. Lots of men, that's their first in a long time if they haven't done this kind of work. Don't do it regularly. And sitting around the campfire, that fraternity feeling, that feeling of brotherhood, and nobody knew anybody. They came in from all over the world. Yeah, I think that's crucial. Again, to build a sense of brotherhood, and it has to be done carefully.
Yeah.
Parts of the Rites of Passage does involve older, wiser men, if you like, telling us of lessons they've learned in life. So you are listening to somebody who's gone through stuff in life and has evolved through processes and experiences that we yet mightn't have. So there is a bit about listening to, in their own way, older men. And it's at a pace, it's not like a lecture. Nowadays we get our information condensed and packaged into lectures or a news TV program or a piece of social media or whatever. In this case, you might be a few hours or even a day or two waiting for the rest of the experience or whatever. So it's a contemplative process, and contemplation and silence are key in Rites of Passage. It's built into the one in Rohr's, and they're old ideas. So in Christian terms, back in Christian history, there's a period of time where it's called the Desert Fathers, where the monks, men and women, went to the desert and would spend a long time in the desert in a harsh environment with little comforts, all with the purpose of getting closer and closer and closer to God. So Rites of Passage uses some of those ascetic disciplines, maybe. And I didn't understand this coming in. I'm not a fan of fasting, or many of the ascetic disciplines. But now I realize the benefits of state fasting, or the benefits of mantras, repeating phrase again and again and again. So those older traditions, which certain groups in Christian setting now, like the monks, the Benedictines, the Carthusians, the Cistercians, those kind of monks, have continued century after century after century. Like the regularity of contemplative silence and prayer. So that's part of it. There's really good fun in Rites of Passage. There's really good fun. And there's a great release. And if anything, for me, it was a group of men whom I knew nobody, all coming together for 5 days in the mountains. Good food, sitting around the campfire, having the crack. What's not to like? And then later when you come home, you can feel the impact of it kind of settling into your bones. So it's probably as best as we can do in modern society to recreate what traditional societies did. They still do in some parts of the world. Indigenous groups still do. And in my case, it was all older men. It's not young men, it's older men, right up till they're 70. But we, generally speaking, none of us in the Western world have had much chance to do a Rites of Passage when we were 15, 16, which is the optimum age. So it's a chance to do it at an older age. It works. Yeah.